All right. Welcome, Jason, to Parasocial, the people behind the protocols. So excited to have you on here as a longtime para friend and former colleague of some folks on the team. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Aditi. It's really great to be here and chat to you more about the work we're going to be doing together.
Amazing. So maybe to get started, tell us a little bit about Cesto.
Yeah, absolutely. Cesto enables thematic baskets on Solana. You could think of it as, Nancy Pelosi trackers or different politicians' trades, being able to buy into them directly on chain. And what we're capitalizing on is more and more of like real world assets, etc., coming live on chain and creating real strong narratives around very specific baskets, themes, and ideas that are like shaping world in the world right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I think many of us saw your coming out of stealth launch as well as all the talk about Cesto and generally RWAs that I think the Solana Foundation has been doing a great job on. So I'm curious, like you clearly have had a lot of background working in the space. More broadly, like what prompted you to build Cesto, and what about this baskets idea was some was something that you wanted to focus on? I'm curious what stuck out to you and why now.
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, with my career, I've always been very motivated by financial access and creating like access to specific things. Growing up, I never really had a lot of like access to, specific opportunities, and part of it was like financially motivated. And as I think about it, there has been a big like macro change in the world where a lot more people are consuming information that comes up on TikTok or YouTube and like other places before they invest, which is very different from reading like 24-page manifestos that used to be the norm all through the 90s, building up to the 2000s. But somehow the financial industry hasn't actually kept up with that change. There's new assets, new allocators, new energy, and new ideas coming live every single day that give opportunities to all sorts of new financial instruments. And so for us personally, having had a background and built consumer products like MiniPay and Cello, we were very motivated to actually figure out a way to make financial opportunity accessible to people across the globe and give them like a very specific bundle of basket that they can access in like one click. And that's been our biggest motivation to building this.
I usually don't take notes during these podcasts, but sometimes when the episodes are really interesting, I do. So if you hear me mute myself and look to the side, that's what I'm doing. Very cool. You mentioned a little bit on the financial access point and some of your previous experience motivating Cesto. On that note, who is Cesto really for? The way that I think about crypto investing or investing in general, you have the spectrum, right? And you have complete degens, maybe buying into meme coins or buying into long tail assets. And then you have, more traditional investors that are not touching crypto at all or only touching ETFs. And like maybe if their brokerage account exposes some crypto functionality, that's where they touch it. Like who is Sesto for in this spectrum?
Yeah, absolutely. Sesto is for the user that wants to tap into ideas as themes, but want to stray away from like traditional asset classes like baskets, ETFs, etc., but also want to own the underlying asset. So this includes typically people who don't have access to typical brokerage accounts. So more than out of 7 or 8 billion people, less than 1 billion have access to traditional brokerage accounts in a way that they're able to actually invest money into traditional markets, and part of it comes down to different forms of barriers, financial, regulatory compliance, etc. Crypto actually presents a really interesting technology to us, which allows through tokens for different people across the globe to access these like instruments in a really accessible way. You could be a farmer in India, but all of a sudden now, in order to transact or send money abroad, you can use stable coins as the quickest way to do that. But now all of a sudden, with more and more RWAs kind of coming on chain, you have a very interesting confluence point where opportunities that previously did not exist before are now coming live on chain. And it's not just RWAs, but think prediction markets and like other asset classes that allow for this new world to be created. Bundling that with AI suddenly gives you a very, very interesting like mental model to the world. Wherein, just yesterday when Donald Trump announced ceasefire, there were at least 8 or 10 different ways a person could have like made money, whether it could have been like shorting oil, etc. So these ideas have been democratized using the internet. YouTube, etc., is widely accessible. Internet is available at every corner of the world. But why isn't the access to financial markets the same way? We believe that we're going to ride the wave of crypto as it goes into these more traditional markets and take like its accessibility in a format that people actually understand, relate to, and really, really want to get into. So Cesto's baskets as a primitive serve as that bridge or that conduit between crypto and the average user that wants to get in and use crypto and use it for an application that they really want, which in this case is investing into different ideas that they believe in.
And you mentioned a little bit about any time that there's a big news story or there's a big story in general, there's kind of different ways to make money. And is the idea that Cesto kind of cuts that friction associated with the thinking necessary on how to exactly make money and like what to short? And is that the idea on like what Cesto makes easier for this sort of consumer that wants to invest in themes?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to make it easier for people that have the knowledge to be able to at scale distribute that knowledge to people that want to tap into that knowledge. Kind of like in the 2000s when the internet started pushing video content, you needed a YouTube to be able to connect creators and connect like people who needed access. And we see Cesto as that sort of bridge and that conduit that allows for people that are looking for specific like information or specific like ways to access or tap into markets or events that are happening across them, and be able to bundle that. We find that prediction markets are a great like market tool that have created a lot more accessibility to crypto. My friends who've never talked about crypto for ages have now like talking about these are the distributed ledger folks that now say, I'm interested in prediction markets. And we think that there's like one level more to this where building editorial taste and a breadth in the menu that you offer to these users is what's going to differentiate how it goes to market. And we believe that Cesto is going to be a key and critical component that allows for that to happen.
That's awesome. Um, why do you think why do you think this idea of baskets hasn't been done before? Like you were kind of talking about this before where there were kind of whispers of this in the space where there were kind of alternate market tools happening like tokenized equities on chain, prediction markets. Obviously, a lot of this is happening on Solana. Like there were bits and pieces of Cesto happening, but why do you think like this is the perfect time to kind of put this all together? And like, why hasn't it happened before Cesto?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first time ever, you have tailwinds from the market with new markets and new assets coming live with sufficient liquidity. Just this last week, over $200 billion of volume has happened across like different RWAs, across like different chains, etc. And we've historically never seen this sort of volume on RWA for the last like 4 or 5 years, and it's really snowballing. Same goes for like prediction markets and perps on like very traditional assets, and it's almost surpassing or the percentage of total volume of like trade that's happening compared to TradFi versus here is slowly growing. It was like 1%, and now it's slowly going to like 1.2%, 1.3%, and it's really snowballing very, very fast. And for us, I think the main tailwinds that we're seeing as catalysts for this movement that haven't occurred before are the like I hate to say this, but the downfall of meme coins was actually was actually a big catalyst, because in essence there used to be a point in time where anyone who believed that Arsenal's going to win the league would buy just the Arsenal fan token or the meme token, but then you would have inflation of it, where you'd have thousands of like Arsenal meme tokens being launched, and you wouldn't know which one to buy because it's not correlated to the underlying asset in any way. But now you have a world where you could potentially buy like broadcasting rights shares, or you could buy like the sponsors tokens, like things that actually correlate to the underlying asset class and do it in a meaningful way. And so for us, I think it's both the infrastructure pieces coming together, deep market distrust in the previous primitives that have like let down a lot of people, and third is just deep financial understanding. I think people have really taken a liking to like self custody, and this is why we love Para as well. Self custody being such an integral part of like the user journey has been one of the most important kind of insight points is that people want to own the underlying asset. They want to lend it, they want to stake it, they want to borrow against it. There's all sorts of like interest that's coming up. Specifically, if you can enable a world where people are able to rebalance and simultaneously like own the asset, you're in the money there. And so far we've seen historical attempts of this being executed in different ways, like on-chain ETFs, etc. But I'm very like my calculated bet for like this time is that there are multiple tailwinds that are resulting in this being the right moment for this to be executed in a way that's never been done before.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I was curious about why you were so gung ho on making Sesto non-custodial. I mean, it's in all your marketing material. It's top line on your website. Like that makes a lot of sense. In terms of what you're seeing there, in terms of the composability of the underlying assets that people actually own via Sesto being non-custodial, what does that look like? Like, are people asking for things like lending, borrowing, staking, etc.? What sorts of DeFi do they want access to? I mean, we see this a lot with things like embedded finance and embedded DeFi, where it all kind of starts with being non-custodial, and then people slowly understand or like get that, oh shit, I actually own this thing. Like, can I do this with it, or can I make this more composable? And so like what are the requests that you're hearing from your users?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, the moment a person buys a basket and starts to view a basket as a token that they can potentially have, one of the first questions that comes up is, hey, if everything is one click, why can't I one click lend this and earn interest on it? And for us, baskets serve as that like one primitive that we integrate like lending protocols into, that we are able to integrate like staking protocols into, etc., that allow for people to actually do it. And so for users, this actually ends up being the killer use case as to why people come to crypto for. It's like mainly being able to access like new instruments, but also new instruments and new permutations and combinations of opportunities. Imagine being able to like hold an ETF and a stock, diversify, hedge, while simultaneously lending it out, like using the USDC to then go and like make purchases. This hasn't happened before, or this hasn't been like composability we've seen before. And this is the precise reason why people are like doubling down on self custody at this point. Self custody is the only way that you can have access to it. Think about the world till like, the world that's been proliferating with vaults and like ETFs, mutual funds, etc., where the only way to actually access a theme used to be to say, hey, Aditi, give me $5. I'm going to invest it on your behalf. Trust me, I'm going to do the right thing. Don't worry about it. And anytime you need to withdraw, there's a chance that the vault could blow up, or like things could change, or market conditions could change. The liquidity, APY slippage, everything could change. And so people really want self custody, and bundling that with these primitives gives them access to new mental models that they haven't seen, kind of like a paintbrush. And we think that that is what people are slowly making the connection towards. The first time they buy a basket, they think, okay, wow, this was a smooth experience. Can I do more with it? And that's what leads to like, okay, feature requests in terms of staking, lending, borrowing, using pubs, etc.
Super cool. And I mean, just the way you're talking about it, it sounds like composability for your business means extending your relationship with the user. It's not just buy asset, buy basket, forget about Sesto. Extending the surface area that you can touch the user, give a user a great product experience, platformatized. I think that's yeah, really, really cool. I actually didn't know that people were requesting this, so learned something. Um, in terms of these baskets, how do you think about the delicate balance of making investing feel as simple as one click, really easy to do, and not oversimplifying risk?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good question. So for us, I think keeping risk at the forefront is the most important thing. I think there's a delicate balance between showing too much information and hiding risks, which is what you see in a lot of platforms, right? They'll give you like the APYs, and they'll give you deep, intricate details about like the balancing, the collateralization ratio, and like how much is sitting within the pool, how many liquidity providers are there, etc., etc. Now the problem is there's a gap between it serves that specific user audience group, but very rarely gives the information it needs to like all user groups in some sense. So I err on the side of thinking about this with a product hat on by saying, you give the user what they're looking for, but they need to be able to double click and actually go to the source. So be able to like tap into or like find the specific like, pools of information that give them all the information and data that they need. And I think personally, risk disclosure is super important. If you're investing into a basket that surrounds stock disclosures by politicians or by defense mode, a lot of what is announced in media, etc., forms like the bedrock of the risk that you're taking on. And for us, it's been like super effective to actually like have a very honest. So if you go to Cesto today and you look at like any basket and you look at the risk profile of any basket, you'll actually see listed in a very honest way like this could blow up. This is very honestly like the underlying asset. So you're taking on like 4 or 5 levels of risk. This is what the risk looks like. This is what it feels like, and this is what you could do to potentially mitigate it. And being honest about it actually helps us get to users and also be able to mitigate or potentially have like listeners, etc., that are able to mitigate. Specifically, self custody bundled with like disclosures of risk allows you to minimize like the blast radius every time things like can go wrong. So yeah, I think just being honest is probably been the like having high integrity on the risk has been like the most important thing for us.
Yeah, that that makes a ton of sense, and it's interesting that you're also providing folks with a mitigation strategy in the situation that ever happens. I am curious. One thing that I noticed when I when I first saw the Sesto app is the specific kinds of baskets you picked to feature. How did you go about that? Like, what was your process there? Because I think every single one of them is like pertinent in some way, and it almost like strikes something emotional in people when they see those first baskets because it's all so relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for us, I think curating baskets, a curation, and focusing on like a curated menu that has been like a core thing we think about every single day. So making sure the photographs resonate with people, the names actually resonate with people, they're playful, funny, all of it makes a big difference because what we realize very quickly is that people don't invest on the basis of returns only. They invest sometimes on the basis of vibes. If they see things that resonate with them or if they're created by people that they like, then that suddenly becomes like the main like course of attraction for them. And so the thought process that went into creating the initial baskets was just to make like something that's like memeable, something that people get, something that people instantly say, hey, I kind of want this. And we tried at least like in our user testing, we've probably tried across maybe 150 different like baskets with like visuals, and then we like zeroed in and said, hey, no, I think this is what's gonna like be the one that gives the best mental model for like how you'd see a perp inside or how you'd see like lending inside. And I think that really struck a chord. We got a lot of DMs after the launch that said, hey, like I really like how you've curated or how you've like put out like specific like baskets and the way you've like put together the information and the imagery. It makes it almost feel like you're a media like content website that just has like the ability to, go in and invest underneath it, which I think is going to become the theme of the industry in the next 10 years.
I think so too. I think curation, I mean, that's the whole reason why I think prediction markets are so interesting because there is a level of curation of what sorts of markets are featured and when and why.
Yes.
Um, if anything could be a prediction market and anything could be featured, I think it just becomes less interesting. And so um, that's fascinating that you also user tested not only the name and the photo, but also like how composable is it and how interesting would it be for this to be composable with DeFi and lending, etc. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, fascinating.
I think the
Also, just
bar
refreshing.
for what you ship to users right now is the highest it's ever been. Like
Yeah,
getting and maintaining attention requires you to do things that take a lot of extraordinary effort. Like, why would you spend so much time before launch to, design these like images and think about a brand, etc. And I think that high effort products are the way to go right now. There's no other way to go, especially with like the ease of building products, like to mark your
yeah,
space and to
uh-huh.
really think about it deeply. Like investing into this stuff upfront, I think has been like our cheat code in some sense.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked about this. Like, just the moat that a brand can have is so very important
Yeah.
because it's humans at the day interacting with your stuff. Yeah. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. In terms of so tell me a little bit about you mentioned like high effort products and Sesto being in that category. Are there certain user behaviors you're trying to unlock with Sesto? And are you thinking about that in terms of platforms you're excited about? Today you have a web app. Like, tell me a little bit more about the future state of the user experience and user behavior that you'd like to enable.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are very excited about a few different form factors that Sesso is going to take in the foreseeable future. So one is we're looking at potentially having a mobile experience that's going to create a lot less of friction. Imagine being able to wake up, look at news, but also simultaneously see the news and baskets associated to that, and being able to allocate. That suddenly makes it like super exciting for a lot more user groups. I think being able to see kind of market changes live. So I think that's the first piece of it that like we're very excited about. And then second is we also have like an SDK that is live, like that's going to go live soon. We're like having it be tested. So very excited about that. Got a few design partners that might be plugging in the SDK to display baskets inside like their specific app. So we're very excited to take like the idea behind Cesto and baskets. Cesto means baskets, by the way, in Spanish. And so taking that into that experience or that curated experience into like other applications, I think is going to be yet another like really interesting challenge that we're going to take up in the next 12 months. So very excited for the next few months. Yeah.
Complete tangent that's outside of the user experience question. But um, as you know, certain news stories lean left or right, and there's some platforms that do a good job of displaying like how right leaning or left leaning news content is. Like I think of Ground News as an example. Do you foresee that to impact the underlying baskets, and do you foresee like a certain story leaning left or right impacting the sorts of assets that are in a basket? Just when you were talking about the mobile app, that's kind of the first thing I thought about.
Yeah, so I have a strong opinion about this. I think we're very much in the picks and shovels business when it comes to this, because at any given point in time, you may see the graph for Palantir go up and then come down, and you may think, oh, I want to buy more, or you may think, hey, Michael Berry just shorted, and he's the guy that behind the big short, and therefore I want to short it. And so we envision a place where both sides of the market actually participate meaningfully, but it's the curator that really decides, or the people that curate these baskets. We're very excited about having human curated baskets or like, user curated baskets as well as like a form of community generated content that's going to create, a lot more distribution and like energy around these baskets. So we think that those are the folks that are going to use baskets as a mechanism to drive a specific like agenda process, like to their audiences, as opposed to us actually like holding strong like strong enough stance on the platform itself. For us, I think making sure that it's asset rich, market rich, and like protocol rich underneath is probably the highest priority at this point, so that our users are happy with the kind of variety they get from like the thematic baskets.
On the human piece, what does a human curated basket unlock that a traditional investment strategy cannot unlock?
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer this, I think it's important to understand the like how the traditional finance system currently curates a portfolio. So it takes anything between 1 to 5 years to actually, for a person to build the credibility, bootstrap seed capital, buy some of the core assets, develop a strategy, invest into the tech, build compliance, and like build out an entire stack to be able to do this. We accelerated that to a few months with the vaults as a product inside crypto by saying, hey, we'll do all of this, but we'll do it inside crypto as a wrapper. But if you think about it, right now there's no platform that allows average Joe that is a big fan of Liverpool to go out and start a Liverpool basket, or like a season ticket holder to actually say, hey, I know enough about this, or I know more than anyone in the world about this, to actually go and monetize their beliefs. There is no way in the world they can do that at the moment. And so for us, I think the community generated baskets create a low cost, low tech, and high fidelity container that allow you to take your ideas to market a lot faster and create like ideas and theses around it. Everyone's been talking a lot about this guy who like left OpenAI and started building his own hedge fund, which we thought was like super cool. But technically, a lot of his allocations and his convictions and his thesis didn't have to wait until he had proven himself out. Could like start by basically launching these ideas and putting them out there and starting to gain a lot more momentum and just build track record along the way, because we believe that the best ideas come from obsession on a particular topic, and it's not always that a person that's obsessed about the topic is like going to be the one that's going to be able to create it. And we want to believe that Cesto is going to be the place that unifies very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. On the topic of obsession and people obsessed with certain kind of micro communities or micro trends, how do you go about, just if you were to talk about it here, how do you go about finding those humans? One community that I think of when I think of like obsessed, intelligent humans is, I think of Reddit.
Love Reddit.
Right? It's the what I also like about Reddit is that it's kind of untouched from any of these like algorithm experiments going on. Like I do think those people exist on Twitter, but just given all the changes with algorithms, it's just kind of hard to find that information. Versus the Reddit feed is reverse chronological. And so it's just kind of easy to see who is really obsessed with what. But yeah, how are you guys thinking about finding these people and sourcing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, one of the things I've been doing is just cold DMing a lot of people on Reddit, any sub niche for people that have been talking about this stuff, and people that don't know crypto. I've like basically been DMing people that just have a really strong opinion, have distribution of their own that they've built out through media, through like just putting out like content there, and just talking to them on an everyday basis, and obsessing over like the kind of opinions that they have about the future, and just giving them what is a paintbrush to see the world differently, or like a new set of goggles. And like one of the things that I got from a customer call just yesterday was like we had a person who built a sports podcast, has no concept of the world of like a crypto, doesn't think of it, but was so bullish on Cesto because what he wanted to do was build a F1 basket. He was like obsessed with the idea of saying, you know what, I would use this to build an F1 basket, because what not a lot of people know is that while every single team, there's maybe like X teams that race, but value concentration happens across 6 companies. And if those 6 companies, if you invest into this, if you believe in F1, the de facto or 50% of your portfolio should technically be these 5 companies. They're the engine companies, They are the media companies that own the broadcasting rights. They are the the specific car companies. So there are some car companies that don't manufacture their own engine. They borrow an engine from other people, and so I think that this sort of niche obsession, and this is a guy that obsesses over F1, nearly goes to like every single match, like watches this, and it is in taking people like that and giving them a tool that they're able to now build really interesting like products, projects out of it, and then build a layer of like content, media, and distribution on top of it is suddenly going to get like where the world is going to get really interesting. The way YouTube did with like long form short form video content, we think that that's how the world of finance and the world of investing is going to go. It's just that we've never had a regulatory, like a sandbox to be able to test different things out in a meaningful way. And now I think with all the innovations that have come up, we officially have a way we can go out and try different things. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, super cool. That's it's awesome to go to people that have no kind of background in crypto and talk to them about this because I mean, they kind of have this knowledge already. And the fact that it's on crypto is actually like a win in terms of the composability and how useful these assets can be. I wanted to ask about your decision to build on Solana. Tell me a little bit more about that. Obviously, you have worked on other chains. You've also worked more broadly in the crypto space. Why Solana?
Yeah, absolutely. So we absolutely love the ecosystem and the meritocratic environment that's been built out over the last 5 or 6 years that Solana's had. I've always been watching kind of the chain evolve and the platform. Have had friends that have been plugged in, but my personal my personal inclination has always been to watch from the sidelines, own a bit of soul, but not actually like. But I think what got to me over the last maybe 2 or 3 years was just watching all the building blocks that we were looking at go live and just gain so much momentum, so much distribution around them, and so much energy around the builders and the ecosystem, etc. We absolutely love the kind of support we receive just by like going live and just by like supporting and like working with some of the core builder communities. Everyone's just like high energy. It kind of feels like you're walking into a festival or a corridor where like everyone knows everyone and everyone's like high-fiving you. It's really high energy. And so as a founder, your journey can be very lonely, and it always helps to have people around you. I go every Friday and work with some of the super team folks here in London, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And so I kind of came for the product, like fast transactions, the assets, availability, etc. But really fell in love with the community and the vibrant ecosystem that they've built out around these things, and the obsession with like the game. Everyone really enjoys playing the game. Everyone talks about like product revenue. They're passionate about specific things, and I think Solana's done a really good job of like curating that. And yeah, we're very excited to be building on Solana.
Yeah, I think that aligns really well with our experience building the Solana ecosystem. Like everyone is obsessed with like building a business, and it's just so refreshing just to hear that people are in it to win, and they're going hard at it, and it's awesome to see. You mentioned a point on revenue, and I was curious on the point around real humans being able to create baskets. What's in it for them? What's their incentive to create these baskets?
Absolutely. So right now we're nailing out how we. So I think it's not hard to do a rev share with users, but I think it's not a technical challenge. I think that's more of a compliance, regulatory, like legal challenge over time that you have to overcome through different means and mechanisms. So I think we are definitely obsessing over the details on this like piece of the puzzle as well. And the plan is to basically have some form of a surprise kind of rev share potentially with users that allows them to benefit off of curating like good baskets and bringing like their distribution to use it without having to build out. Like we've obsessed over this stack for like over 12 months now, and we think it's extremely hard to like build out like different components. And so having like people that obsess over like their domain is probably like using this like tech is probably going to be the biggest force boost for us. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I think of communities like Dune that has, Dune Wizards. I think of, Farcaster had this concept of like channel owners being like a really like kind of high signal role in their community. I mean, it sounds like as this ecosystem gets built out, being a real human curator of these baskets is a really high signal sign in the Cesto community. Do you see it that way?
See it as like the equivalent of like Reddit karma points, and
Yeah.
just having credibility that comes in the form of you know um, curating good stuff, building track record by making good decisions, and like obsessing over a specific thing. And then over time, like I feel like the tools, the distribution will just continue to keep accrue like value over there. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, I mean it I think we hear a lot about community in crypto, and oftentimes community means something very different where Discord is involved and there's tokens involved. But I think when it's done out of that context really well is when it's truly something that feels really high signal and high visibility in a
Absolutely.
product that values that. So super,
We're
super
we're
cool.
very bullish on the community that Para has as well, with the parasocial and like the people that you've like curated and like built out. I think that's incredibly cool. Big fans of that. And when you said like Dune Wizards, and it just like occurred to me, we should have a name for like we've been so
You
on
should
brand and
definitely
on
have a name.
theme with like
Yes.
owning an emoji, owning a name, owning like a verb, owning a noun, owning like a paragraph, like all of this stuff, and really parking your territory on like the problem that you're obsessed with. And I feel like right now, thinking about the Sesto curators, or like having a really cool name for that, is something that's
Having
probably
something.
going to keep me up
Mhm.
tonight.
The other way that I see this extended is Polymarket also like extends their Twitter badge to people in their community. And I think these are either, I'm not actually sure, but I think it's either top traders or yeah, just extending that, even just the having a badge in your name when you're not really associated with the core team, I think is it
So
does something emotionally. Yeah, food for thought, but you should definitely have a name. Yeah, we
yeah, I
could.
love that. When we go
Yeah, I'd love to
live
jam.
with it and announce it, I'm going to credit that to you, Aditi.
Oh, yeah, we should add in this snippet. Yeah, I'm curious in terms of the next kind of 12 months. What sorts of baskets do you think people are going to care the most about? I mean, thinking about everything happening geopolitically, culturally, there's a lot of talk about Anthropic's new AI model. Like, what kind of themes do you think are going to resonate the most with people, whether it's culture, AI, something else?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, I think there are three themes that I see are gonna really strike a chord with people. The first one is going to be sports. Like I think we've historically seen tons of volume flow into it, but this is also the year that we have the World Cup that's happening, and just the sheer culmination of like volumes across these like different markets is massive. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars already, and we're not even like quite there yet. And so I think sports is going to become like till the end of the year, it's going to continue to keep accruing a lot of like the market value. And so we're very excited about sports being like one of the key kind of pieces. Second one is going to be cultural kind of stuff. The more esoteric markets. Is this person going to be on the next season of like a Love Island basket, or like a Taylor Swift basket? Like ways in which you can monetize and cash in on like different trends is probably going to be like a really interesting way to view the world. A cultural lens, I think, is going to be huge. And of course, goes without saying, the technological geopolitical, like I see those in the same bucket, given like the way world's like progressing right now with AI. And like I think that's going to be another like massive multi like $1 billion market. And For us, I think these are probably the three big domains we're obsessed with. And the underlying primitives that we are really looking forward to having are like more along the lines of like pre-market stocks, whenever like those get tokenized, more kind of commodities markets, because I think commodities have generated like a ton of volume and have seen like movement that we've never seen historically, all in one place right now. And so I think we're quite bullish on these being like kind of the underlying themes that we build on top of. But that said, everything that's topical starts in like a day and like ends maybe 2 days later. That's just the attention span of the world. And so I think investing heavily into being and staying really fast and topical with specific ideas and themes and becoming the go-to place for that is going to become like the main challenge over time.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, we talk about this, like it's just so hard to, one, you're moving fast as a company because you're accelerated by things like AI and just building quickly, but two, everybody else is as well. And so the news is just kind of moving quickly, and how do you, to your point, stay on top of things. Got it. And so in terms of success for Cesto, what does kind of the world look like when Cesto is, everywhere? You have humans curating baskets. Does it look like more informed investing? Does it look like better portfolio construction, broader adoption of crypto, or just does it look like a whole new interface for expressing conviction or something else?
Good question. I think it's going to be a combination of the few things. The piece I'm most excited about is just that new experience. Like, imagine being able to wake up and see, your convictions reflected, or opportunities reflected in your conviction for a specific theme. And I think that as like AI gets better and better and has like more and more that it can do, people are gonna have the ability to actually like monetize on their convictions a lot more easily. And Sesto is gonna become the de facto way. Like you're not gonna tell Claude to build me a business, build me a website, and then like monetize it. You're probably gonna say, hey, is there anything on Sesto today that reflects this, or this changing? And you're probably going to go in and like make a trade on Sesto at the end of it. So for us, I think widespread adoption and getting to a place where my dad, who happens to be obsessed with like investing off of advice he gets from YouTube influencers, actually uses baskets that are built out by these YouTube influencers to actually go and invest.
I love that. One more question that just came up as you were talking. The interface for making these baskets, like how are you thinking about that? Like I'm curious, like do you imagine that it's going to be something kind of technical that you need a certain level of knowledge to have? Are you thinking about it more like the idea that comes in my head is something like a no code interface, like a bubble where you're just kind of like dragging and dropping different ideas? Like how does this like sports podcast person create a basket in this ideal kind of end state where Cesto is everywhere?
It's a really, really thoughtful question. And I'm going to breadcrumb a bit of our roadmap and tell you exactly like a sneak peek into like how we're thinking about it. So as of now, we've been testing out this idea of people being able to do it using Claude and like different LLMs and skills. So it's really interesting because you have the bandwidth to do the research. You have the ability, you have like all the information access you have in the world. But Cesto now becomes the destination for that research. Because you may have built conviction, you may have built like answers, a portfolio of like research that you've done. And now with Cesto and the skills that you have, in one click, you're now able to create some of these baskets like into our labs platform, like which is currently in beta, very, very quickly. And so we think that wherever the users are is likely going to be where like the platform evolves. I genuinely think that if you click an image and you think that image could be a basket, it should be a basket, and that's the way we want the world to like play out. It's like more and more show up where users are and be able to like participate where they are and like find distribution where they are, and just give them a platform to be obsessed about one very, very specific thing that they're able to then go and like make it big with. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I think similar, like we've done a lot of investment in our skills library, just like things that we're finding that people are just using a lot of being there. Another example is I have been using this open claw that texts me. It's called Poke. And it's just nice. It's it's something that I can do on the go, and I'm already in iMessage, whether it's texting family, texting friends, texting like colleagues. And so I think you have a point in kind of sitting exactly where people are and taking advantage of the distribution that exists right there. So very cool. I'll stay tuned. Amazing.
What
Well,
are you
Jason,
currently using AI for other than that? Like, what other applications are you currently using, like your OpenClaw and stuff for?
yeah. So my open claw is mostly for personal tasks. So tasks like um, automating like certain house things that I do once a month, like automating, scheduling an appointment for getting the house cleaned, automating even things like birthday reminders, and having a tree of if friend in this list flowers plus text me for input on a gift. If, friend that's a male do a book or something. There's kind of a tree of options. So it's mostly personal tasks at the moment. But this open claw that's on my phone via iMessage, it's more like on the go, on the fly questions that I have. It's usually things like, oh my God, I'm trying to get to the office at this time for this meeting. Like, can I take the Muni bus right now? And it'll kind of map it out. Um, so things like that, and of course, Claude is my workflow for work, which is incredibly helpful. But yeah, things like even X402 APIs, like I find that really helpful. We talked about some of it for scraping like top level news. Um, yeah, I think the challenge will be like trying to get organized with all of these workflows because there's so many things that you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I love the idea of like just baking it into the example you gave of like birthdays. I think is great.
Yeah, so it's a text to myself 1 week out reminding me, and then if I want to kick off send flowers or something, it'll do that as well. Um, so, but yeah, always trying to think of more personal tasks I can automate, but this seemed top of the list for me.
When is your
Um,
open claw gonna like? We need to get your open claw on Sesto as soon as possible.
oh, interesting. What do you mean?
So imagine being able to go on the on your commute and see a billboard and you're like, wait a minute, like I don't think that this is actually or I think this is I'm very bullish on this idea of like of voice AI and like just being able to find like all the baskets with it and then use X402 or any forms of like and just go and be able to plug in some capital into baskets through this. Could be super
So
interesting.
cool. Super interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to play around with when the labs platform is ready, I'll have to play around.
Absolutely.
Um, amazing. Well, Jason, we are almost at time. Do you have any closing remarks?
No, I just thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited for our partnership together through embedding kind of para into Sesto and like enabling users to have like a really clean kind of rebalancing and product experience. So thank you once again for having me.
Thank you so much. And it was so interesting to learn about your process and human curated baskets and how you're thinking about why now, why this needs to exist now. So I'm sure more is coming, and we'll have to have you back on once the full V2 is out and human curation is out. But yeah, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.